Hello, dear listeners and viewers. Welcome to Landing America. Thank you for joining us today. I decided to invite my friend Cynthia to share her immigration story with all of us. So, Cynthia, welcome.
Oh, thank you very much, Tatiana, for inviting me. I'm happy to be here and share my story, and hopefully others can resonate with it.
Thank you so much. Let's start from the very beginning. Cynthia, where are you from? Tell us something about your childhood, upbringing, stuff like that.
Well, I'm from Peru. I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. My parents are from the northern part of the capital of Peru, Lima. It's a city called Trujillo, and an hour from that city, it's the village. It's called Casa Grande. That's where they're from. Most of my summers, I spend it in Casa Grande as well. They come from very humble beginnings, both of them. But I was born, and my siblings as well were born at the capital.
When was the first time you were thinking about America or going to America?
Well, the first time I thought about coming to America, it started when I actually went to high school, and as part of my extracurricular activities, I went to school to study English. And the institute is called IPNA, back in Lima. And I did 3 years of English classes because the level of English in my high school wasn't good enough. And I always told my parents, it's like, oh, I want to learn English. So I did 3 years. I think I only got to the level of intermediate, on back and forth. Sometimes I took summers off or a couple months here. And that's how I met my friend Vanessa. She and I met at these classes, at one of these classes. We became really good friends. And at the age of 16, 17, she moved to Arizona. And ever since, because we remained close, she would invite me to come over and to work with her, and so I couldn't save up money. And that's how the story started. I thought of the idea of coming to visit her because I do have cousins in Texas, but the first time I even thought of America was coming to visit that friend that I met through my English institute.
What was the visa process to get here?
The tourist visa. My family and I got the tourist visa, and at the moment, I would think I was 17, about to turn 18, and somehow I found out that if I reach 18, which is official legal age in Peru, it's not 21 like in the United States. So if I turn 18 and I would apply for a visa, I have to go on my own, right? And there was a different type of requirements that they ask you, an income, any ownership of a home. So I kind of pushed my dad to say, hey dad, like, why don't we get a visa? I really want to go to the United States because of my friend. She keeps telling me all these things about the United States, that I could go visit her. And my dad applied for our whole family, my parents, my siblings, me, and we got approved. I wasn't part of the application itself, but my dad took care of everything. I don't remember what was the fee back then. I think right now it's like $200 perhaps to apply for a visa. In Peru, by the way, also it's not very easy. Even though if you have income, if you have a stable job, if you own a home, not everybody gets approved. So we were nervous. We kind of like rehearsed, where are we going? Why are we asking you? Why are we applying for a visa? Oh, we wanted to go to Disney. That's the typical then, right? But not everybody gets approved, and we were lucky enough back then that they approved everyone, right? So it started with that. Right before I turned 18, we got a tourist visa, the V2, and that's how I came to the United States for the first time.
So your whole family got the visa, but you were the only one who used them to visit your friend in Arizona.
And the reason why I say I push my dad, because my dad doesn't like to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And because he doesn't like to travel, it would only send my mom with her children, and he wasn't even thinking of like the United States, even though it's a funny story actually. My dad said that when he was 18, 19, he worked for Citibank and he was offered a job in the United States. But at the time, my grandfather passed and he couldn't live, and he stayed back in Peru. But at the same age, he got offered to come as well.
Interesting. And so, what did you do those 2 months when you visited your friend?
So once I got my visa, I called my friend, hey, it's like the invitation's still open, and then she said, yeah, come over. She got married to an American. Her husband now, Casey, Casey's family own a cookie shop, and they also had a cleaning business of high schools, like daycares at night. So when I got there, and I will work with them when there was opportunity for me to go and join them at the cleaning in the evenings, or I will be at the cookie shop making cookies and packaging them. That was kind of my first job, because back home, we had a lady who will come home for to help my mom cleaning, doing household stuff, right? The first time I came to the United States, I didn't know how to do laundry, I didn't know how to cook, I never even did my bed, so it was kind of me getting my feet wet if this having a job was for me, because actually back home my dad didn't want me to work. We were supposed to go to school, finish school, and start working as professionals, right? But yeah, I came to Arizona. I remember doing a layover. Actually, funny enough, my first layover was in Miami, and I visited my high school friend, and we still remain very close, Samantha, and I stayed with them for 2 days. I remember going through immigration. I actually flew by myself. I just came by myself on the airplane. I was nervous. I didn't know what they were gonna ask me.
Do you remember what they asked you?
I don't remember, but the very few things that they asked me, I remember I was very shy, because my English was, it was, even though I went to school for 3 years, but I didn't get to practice. And that's also why I pushed my dad, because I said, Dad, I don't want to continue to go to the English Institute, because unless I practice, I'm not going to learn it. So I need to, go to America, practice my English, and that way I will be more fluent, right? Because in Peru, well, now it has changed. This was 22 years ago. People don't tend to speak, even though we have more tourists, you get to meet other people and you get to practice, but in a day-to-day, you don't get to speak English.
And do you remember how did you feel when you first got here? What were you excited? Were you scared?
Oh, I was really excited, actually.
What were your first impressions of America?
My first impressions, I was just excited, to be by myself, I think, because I always was very independent, and the first time I flew on my own. And I love the fact that it was different. The first time that you come, you see it's like everything is clean. Most of the cars are nice or newer. For us back then in Peru, when we used to go to McDonald's, Kentucky Fried Chicken, it was kind of like a delicacy. Like you do it on special occasions or on the weekends. And the first thing that I wanted to do when I came to America is like go to a McDonald's,
I think most of the people do, yeah.
I was just really excited. The TV was in English, the signs were in English, getting to know or meet for the first time the typical American that I used to watch when I was like on the American movies, you only watch it on movies on the cable. And so that was everything new. It was very exciting.
That's how I felt when I got here. I'm like, oh, everything here is like in the movies.
Yes.
But then I was told, well, the movies are according to how America is. It's not here by the movies. It's the other way around,
It's just when you see it through the TV, you think that it's something that it's not even in this planet, right? Somewhere from another time.
Yeah, I remember I took my first yellow cab. Like, I feel like American right away. So, what did you do after you left here, after that summer? Did you come back?
Yeah, I mean, it lasted only 2 months, but I actually went and spent time with my friend and her husband. I had a great time. We met, different people. He was at the time in a metal music band, and I was underage, so I used to go to their concerts, but be in a different section. And when that was over, I'm like, oh, now I need to go back home, But I was about to start in college, university, and my family will be waiting for me. I remember buying a lot of gifts for them and bringing them back home. And back then, I think I was not the first member of my immediate family of going to a different country, but I have cousins that came to Miami or New York in the past. But after those 2 months, I came back home, and I knew I liked it, right? And I continued with college, and 2 3 years later, I told my dad. Actually, I didn't tell him the second time. I the way I came back the second time, it was I told my cousin I wanted to come back, save money, come for the summer, and then go back to Peru and pay for my tuition for the whole year. And my cousin, it was the one that lent me the money, and I only told my dad 3 days before my flight was leaving that I was coming to the United States.
You were a little rebellious.
Yes, I don't remember why I didn't ask my dad, hey dad, I want to go. Would you mind lending me some money so I can buy the ticket? I'll pay you back. It wasn't work. I don't know why, but it happened that I remember my cousin giving me money and then paying her back.
You probably wanted to be sure that what you're doing is no one is stopping you. I had the same situation when I decided to go to Malta. I was first saving money, so when I told my parents I'm going to Malta, they couldn't stop me because what's stopping you? Usually money, right?
That's true.
And since I didn't need money from them, they couldn't really say anything. And it was the same situation with America. I also was saving money those 4 years I was in Malta, and with a decent amount, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to America. And when I told my mom, she was like, oh my God, you're crazy. Don't do that. It's so dangerous. But she's like, I'm not going to let you go. I'm like, you cannot do anything,
That's true.
Yeah. So after the 3 years, you went back to Arizona or New
No,
York?
actually, this time was different. And the only reason why my dad was okay of me coming back to the United States was because I had a cousin who moved to New York probably months or a year before that time when I was coming. So the ticket I bought was to New York. I arrived at the John F. Kennedy Airport, and I was staying with my cousin. So my parents knew that I was gonna be fine,
And New York is a whole different story than Arizona, I guess.
Yes. Arizona, as a city, is very quiet. I remember our break in Peru is summer for us is December, January, February, March. And that's the time that I came to Arizona, but in the United States, it's winter time. So I remember wearing a jacket, being all warm and cozy. My friend lived in Mesa, which was away from Phoenix, which it's kind of like the downtown of Arizona. And the only thing that we did, it was just going to work or going grocery shopping or going to the jobs or visiting family members or going to her husband's practicing metal music. Yeah, I mean, totally different to
Peaceful dynamics, totally different.
Yes, totally different to New York, because in New York, I didn't have a car. I don't think my cousin had a car yet. I don't remember, to be honest. But I remember I had to take the bus, to take the train. Everybody lived close to each other, right? In Arizona, all the houses are farther apart. It was colder because in New York it snowed during winter time. I came again during winter time, and in New York snows. It was super cold. Yeah, it was definitely different than Arizona. And also I was staying with family, with them. I found a job being a housekeeper. That was my first job. I work as a housekeeper in the morning, and I work at Wendy's. I think my role was flipping burgers and making the sandwich. And I worked there at nighttime. Like I will go to the shift from 8 o'clock to 2 in the morning. So between jobs, I'll just get to my cousin's house, take a nap, and then wake up and then go to the next job. And yeah, I mean, I did that for a month, I think. And through my work at Wendy's, the manager of Wendy's, the one that gave me that job, was Peruvian, and her name was coincidentally Cynthia, same as mine, and we became friends, and we lived together actually, and we would love to go dancing. And then once she invited me, hey, would you like to go dancing? And apparently it was closer. We lived in Staten Island, New York. It was closer to go dancing to New Jersey and Elizabeth than going to the city in Manhattan. So on one of those outings, I ran on into a high school friend of mine, and she lived in New Jersey and worked for a catering place. And then when she saw me and she knew that I was in the United States, she said, like, why don't you come to New Jersey, live with me, I'll get you a job. And that's how I moved from Staten Island, New York to New Jersey. And that was how I got my second job as a catering place. At that time, I didn't know I was going to stay. At that time, I was still thinking that I'm going to save up money and I'm going to go back home. But then...
So what made you stay?
What made me stay, it's once I started working, once I started saving money, like I told you before, I was very independent from even high school before I came to America the first time. I never liked to ask my parents for money. And I always felt the need to like be resourceful, to get my own money, because even in high school, I used to sell these little bracelets.
So you loved the independence?
I loved independence. So I was on my third year of college, going into the fourth, and once I realized I was working, I was saving, I was living on my own, I didn't have to explain myself to anybody. That's what make me think. I said, oh, and I can go to college here, right? Finish my engineering school, because engineering, like, the numbers are the same everywhere. And that's when I told my parents, it's like, maybe I'm just gonna take a semester off. That's how it started. My semester started in March and finished in July, August. And then another semester started August to December. And so I said, okay, let me take a semester off. The semester passed by. And the reason why I stayed, actually, besides the independence, besides the saving, was that I didn't want to go back to college and be behind like my other classmates. And because I like my independence, I ended up staying. So that semester turned into like the many years, 22 years later, I'm still here. But yeah, that's what changed in my decision of whether staying or going back.
So how many years did it take you to basically get a status?
Well, when I overstayed, right, I realized that I couldn't go back home, right, until I became legal. And I had friends who worked with me at the catering place. We did weddings. We'll just gather around and talk to each other and say, I was like, oh, we need to get married. They will fall in love with us and they will get married to us. And I thought it was going to be easier, right? People will fall in love in a year, 2 years, and I had a boyfriend at the time, and we've been together for 2 years, I think. He knew my situation, obviously. And once everything was good, there was no problems. I really like his family, but I found out he cheated on me, and he was very sorry, and he asked me to forgive him. I said, okay, well, marry me if you really want me to forgive you. And his mom told him no, because that was not going to be a good marriage, that I was going to leave him after I got my paperwork. And he didn't want to, and we broke up, and I just went on with my life, right? I think I went to the community college. I took English courses because I wanted to be ready the minute I had my green card to have all the courses that I needed before going into college. And there's a couple, when you're not born in the United States, they ask you to have some courses before. So I started going to school, I was focusing, and I took a couple classes at the community college, and that's how I found my husband's best friend's wife, who was the one that introduced us. And that's how I met my husband. She introduced us, we dated, he knew my situation. I said, it's like, hey, at that time, I already been 5 years, right? Thinking that through love, I was gonna, probably get my papers before 5 years. But I told them, right, I knew I wanted to go back home. I wanted to see my family, even though they came to visit a couple times. But I wanted to also have my green card to go back to school and finish school. And at the beginning, my husband said no, he was not gonna marry. And I said, okay, I'm not gonna waste my time, bye. And I was going through a difficult time around that time that happened. And I remember going to the doctor because I don't know, I felt bad or something, but I was at a doctor and my brother couldn't come. And my brother called my husband and said, hey, my sister is by herself, can you go with her? My brother didn't know that we broke up. And he came, he waited for me, and then we started talking again. And then he said, like, I'll marry you. And we got married. But before we got married, when he was a green card holder, he wasn't a U.S. citizen. And I knew you needed to be a U.S. citizen so that the process would go faster. So before we got married, I helped him apply for his U.S. citizenship. And once he got it, that's when we set the day we got married.
So how would you say, what was the hardest part during those 5 years for you?
Well, for me, the hardest part was that I didn't have anybody close, that I could trust. I learned that the first year that I came, for me, I was like, oh, everybody's so nice. Everybody wanna get to know me. Everybody wants to be my friend. And to be honest, throughout these jobs that I had, there was always somebody who was jealous, right? And I learned very quickly that I couldn't trust people. Well, I couldn't trust everybody because I would come like an open book. And for those who know me, they know I'm an open book right now. But back then, they make me close up because everything that I say, they took it the wrong way, or they will think something different, or I learned I couldn't trust anybody.
That was one of the first advices I got from one friend when I came here, which surprised me, but throughout the time I realized he was right. Is when he told me that don't trust anyone here. You can only trust yourself. Don't even trust me. That's what he said. And I mean, we're still friends, but it was interesting to me because I felt like, why, And throughout the years, you get experiences with different kinds of people, and you find out that he was certainly right.
And I'm grateful actually that thankfully my path, I mean, now talking to other people that migrated on the same way that I did, the stories are really like real and hard to believe, but thankfully in the whole process, the people that I came across were really willing to help, right? For example, I'm very thankful to the mom of this boyfriend I had. She was the manager of this catering place, and she helped me a lot, and I owe her a bunch of things to her. She celebrated my first birthday. I was by myself. She made me a meal, she made me a cake, she said happy birthday. So I remember, only when I wasn't working or I knew that I didn't have to do laundry or go grocery shopping or something, I would just sit down and talk to my parents. It was hard, but I think what made it easier is my age. I was, 21, I was excited about everything. Everything was new. I was practicing my English. I had a boyfriend, and they were Italian. And Italian with Spanish, it's a similar culture. I didn't feel it. I felt it at later times, right? There was times that nothing will go right, and I will miss my parents or miss having friends to come and listen to me. It was hard, the communication. Like now, I feel like it's so much easier. You have WhatsApp, you have video calling, you see your relative. A lot of people come and visit you, and you go back them, visit them. With the technology, right? It makes people closer. But back then, there wasn't such a video calling, right? And obviously, I didn't want to worry my parents. Like, I didn't tell them every single thing that happened to me. Like, if one day I got locked out and I had to sleep in outside,
Yeah, that's what I think is the case. That the younger the person is, the better they take all those struggles and homesickness, basically.
Yeah.
But I went through similar situations as well when things were not going according to my expectations. If something was not good at work, or maybe some betrayal of friends, whatever life throws at you, that's when you really start feeling homesick, and you just feel like, I would like to be with my mom now, but they're so far away. So I can feel you on that. How did your life changed after you got married or after you got your green card? I would like to know what benefits, basically. How did it benefit your life in here?
To be honest, even though I didn't have a green card, but I worked, right? Even though there was a couple years that I was by myself, eventually my brother came, my cousin came. I remember we shared an apartment, and it was my cousin, his sister, my brother, and I, and our best friend living on the same place. So we always be surrounded. I had a job, thankfully. I had a car. Eventually I bought my car, but that was because my uncle helped me, because I couldn't, but he somehow was able to get a car and have insurance, so he helped me with that. I rented out my own apartments. There wasn't such a thing like applications, credit reports, and now people ask for that. So it was easier for me. It was easier. The only thing I couldn't do is travel, because even at the time I came, it was 2001, was right after the Twin Towers attack. A lot of people felt afraid even picking you up from the airport, right? My cousin had to ask a friend to pick me up from the airport. Also, people were not, we thought, because we were scared, we wouldn't travel, from New York to Los Angeles, or New York to Texas, or anywhere else within the United States. We thought that if we go to the airport, they will pick us up and deport it, and we'll get deported. So there was a bunch of myth, I guess. Now people can travel within the United States, but the only thing I could not do, it was come out, right? Come visit my family. Go to Peru.
So there was this type of a stress of being deported those few years because if you do maybe one wrong step, that's what it's
even with the car
gonna happen.
Legally, I could not drive a car. I had my international driver license that expired, and whenever I was driving, I was just lucky enough I didn't get pulled over. But there was one time I got pulled over that my international driver license didn't work, because I get pulled over and they say, I'm visiting, I have my international driver license, and that was it. They let me go. But there was one time that they pulled me over and they gave me a ticket. I went to court. A lot of people back then was scared. I went. They gave me a ticket. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if I was scared or I was not scared. But went to court. They gave me a ticket and then paid my ticket and left the court, and that was it. But that was also fear that somebody will pull you over and the police will send you to immigration. So I was very careful driving. I was careful of not getting into trouble either. After I got married, we went through the application, the process. I was kind of familiar because I filled up all the paperwork for my husband to become a US citizen, so I knew where to go, like the USCIS.gov. I know it by memory. We didn't hire a lawyer, I wasn't afraid of calling. A lot of people are back then, or were afraid and still are. But whenever I didn't know how to fill an application, I will call the number directly and I ask them, and they will help me and walk me through every single thing that I didn't know. And that's how I filled my application, send it in. Everything apparently was good. I remember we got married in September, and October 12th was the day that I picked to send out all my applications to become a resident. And I remember that day because it was my grandma's birthday, and I always pick the special occasions for extra luck. And in October.
And so how many months did it take for you to... You went for an interview with your husband after you applied?
Yes.
So when was that?
So I remember sending all the paperwork in October. It was after 5 months. It was March. And I remember going with my husband into the building we went. Remember, I filled up all my applications in New Jersey. It's in Newark, New Jersey. That's the immigration building. It's an intimidating building, very serious. When you go in,
I bet.
There's a lot of people waiting, but nobody talks to you.
And so what were they asking you? How long was the whole interview? How long did it take? What did you have to bring? What did they ask you?
Because I have other girlfriends that got married to a citizen and they went through the same process. They just make sure, they told me, it's like, bring the pictures of your wedding, make sure you have like a joint bank account, that he puts you under health insurance. What else? That you filled up taxes together, right? So we had that, and our wedding was a civil wedding. We went to court, got married, went for lunch afterwards with I only had my cousin, my brother here, and he has only his parents and his brothers. So it was a small wedding, and we make sure we took the pictures. We kind of like went through it, the possible questions, because there's a bunch of things that they might ask you, like, does he use his left or his right hand to brush his teeth? What side of his sleeves? The type of clothes that he wears? The type of cologne? Because we also heard stories, and people will go into the interview and get separated, and if they didn't answer correctly, that was it. They will deny, So I think we practiced beforehand, and we were somehow confident because we were doing this the right way. We married for love, and I remember the wait was long. It took us kind of like the whole day until the afternoon. The interview was quick though, and they only asked us like, state your name, where do you live, what do you do for a living, what does he do, what do you guys do together, like simple things, right? And then we were there for like no more than 30 minutes, to be honest, and they approved us on the spot. When we walked out of the immigration office, we knew I was gonna get my green card in a couple weeks. I think it took like a month.
That was a great feeling, right?
Yes, it was. When we got out, we like relief, because
after so many years.
For me, so many years waiting. Yeah, so many years. I really wanted to go back to school, finish my engineering degree, and go back to see my family.
Well, I'm happy for you.
Oh, thank you.
It went well. So what do you do now?
What do I do now? Well, because of my marriage, right, I went to school and I finished my degree of industrial engineering. And through a school here in the United States, you do internships, and that's how my professional corporate life started, right? And I went to school, it was 2008. I graduated May of 2009. I did my internship before my graduation, and I was lucky because I got to transfer my 3 years of schooling back in Peru to my university. So I was glad that I didn't have to do another 4 years of college. And I only had a couple courses that I needed to take, and that was it. So I do an internship in companies like Bristol Myers Squibb, General Electric, and then I went into the real world, and my professional chapter of my life, it's actually, started in 2009 professionally with my industrial engineering degree, and it finished this year, which I'm no longer with the company. I work as a consultant for like many years in technology, and I'm really good at it. But after COVID, I just couldn't work with my clients. Me being a Latina, I felt different. I need the dynamic to be in the same room, to talk to them, peers, whoever that might be. And after COVID, through a computer, it didn't feel the same. So at that point, I knew that something needed to change. And I've been on this holistic path for 10 years now, since I was first diagnosed with breast cancer. And now I'm 100% dedicated to my holistic coaching, and I'm a Reiki master. So my day by day, it's aligned with my passion, which is guiding and through life of difficult moments and challenges, whether it's females, males, Latino in the Latino community, so that they get the better version of themselves.
And you're also helping immigrants, right?
Yes, and because I'm an immigrant myself, right, and I have to face different things throughout all these years, right, like being by myself, being resilient, trying to adapt to different cultures and people, right? When I first came to New York, and this is kind of like a melting pot. In Peru, there's only like 3 races. You're indigenous, you're mestizo, or you're Peruvian, darker skin, like Peru. I will call it African Peruvian or Peruvian African. We had also some influence there, and we have some influence from Chinese, Japanese people as well, but there's no such a diverse mix of cultures. And coming here and coming to New York, it's, even on social classes, me taking the subway, I will take the subway with somebody who worked on Wall Street, and in the same wagon, there was somebody else who was homeless, right? And also the other difference is that in Peru, I grew up and my friends and peers did everything together. Like we went to high school, we started college, then they get married at the same time, they get the kid at the first time. I wasn't doing any of that. Here, I did everything at different times because I finished college later, then I had a boyfriend, then I got married, I don't have kids. I had friends at college that were younger. I also had friends that were older. My husband, the same thing. He worked with a lot of people from different places, and it's open to, you needed to be flexible, you needed to adapt quickly, learn their culture. So very different from what I was used to.
Yeah, I feel like most of us travelers, or let's say people who start their lives abroad, they are on totally different timeline than their peers from high school who stayed in the same hometown and got married and got a house and got kids. Because we start our life all over again every time we move, and we need to assimilate. So our timeline is totally different.
Yes.
And it's starting from the beginning when it comes to a career and everything else. So yeah, it's useless to do any comparisons.
No, and then when you come, you need to have an open mind and come humble. I come across people that have a different status back home, and they come here, and it's really shocking because they're nobody, and they were used to being somebody back home. What helped me is that I came young, right? I feel that even kids that were brought, like if they were 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, or they still go to school here, they also have a different experience than me. They feel more American. I'm kind of, one of the things when they ask me like, where are you from? And like, I'm American now, but I was born in Peru, and this is home, but not 100%. And back there, it's home, but it's not 100%. So I feel like I'm in the middle, in a limbo, because
split.
One, I don't know where I belong, and I feel split as well. They call immigrants, we are like a different animal breed, you know, because
Sounds
it's hard.
about right.
It's hard to describe, but we're not the same people. We're like stronger. And I'm talking in my words, right? Because even myself, when I've been to therapy, what they have told me throughout the years, I was living in survival mode because I didn't have mom or dad to protect me. I didn't have like a bigger brother. I'm the older sibling to protect me either. When I have problems, I needed to solve them by myself, right? And even when I didn't have a green card, I didn't have medical benefits. So I couldn't even get sick. God forbid I got sick because everybody knew when you go to the hospital,
It's very expensive.
it's very expensive. So
you cannot afford to be sick.
for 5 years, never got sick. The minute I knew I had medical insurance, I started getting sick. It's like, it's funny.
It's a mindset.
Yes, it's,
You cannot afford to be sick, so
you cannot
you're
afford
not.
to be sick. But yeah, I help immigrants like myself to navigate this life, right? Once you come and there's a cultural shock. Also, my husband, he's Polish and Peruvian. He was raised totally different. He's more like, no, I don't want to say cold, but he's not as effective as I am. Like, I talk loud, I hug people, I kiss them, I throw jokes. He's like,
I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. In our culture, like Slavic culture and European culture, we are usually perceived as cold people. Because I was very shocked when I got here, and everyone was like, "How are you?" and trying to talk to you on the streets and in the stores. And I was looking at them like, "What do you want from me? Like, don't talk to me. Like, this is so weird." Now I'm assimilating, so I'm trying to be the same, because actually it's nice to be nice, you know, but you're not used to it. So it was a little shock to me, yeah, as well. So I feel like there's some similarity with your husband, and I totally I get it, yeah. But also, when they ask me how are you, the thing is they don't really expect an answer, and I was like, oh, they asked me how I am, so I started talking about how I am, but then they don't listen to my answer, so I got offended. Like, why would you ask me how I am if you don't give it?
Now that you mentioned that, I'm like exactly the same way. You know, it's the culture is different. It's like a courtesy to ask you, hey, how are you? But not into like, don't tell me if you're doing bad because I don't want to hear it. And I'm like, why are they asking me how I am? And everybody automatically, and it's even, I noticed that on me, automatically, I'm great. Like, you can be like, I'm great with like your head, like rolling your eyes. But that's what society, American society expects you to say, oh, we're doing great. How's the weather? You know, like,
they don't expect you to complain.
They don't expect you to open up.
Yeah.
You know, oh, that was also a big shock when I used to go people and say hello with the kiss in the one cheek, and they would like fall apart, and it make me feel uncomfortable, you know? Even being a Latina in the corporate world was also difficult. I was discriminated, right? Or being Latina and a female and an engineer, because I have to work with a lot of male white collar. They thought I was the person who only needed to make notes. Whenever I was sitting at the big table, nobody listened to what I had to offer. So I had to go through that. People making fun of my accent. And at one point I was so dedicated, it's like, I need to lose my accent. Until one day I said, you know what? Why do I need to get rid of my accent? There's other people that love the accent I have, and this is how I speak.
That's you.
You know, and then that's me, and that's what makes me unique, and especially if they don't like it, and now if somebody asks me, oh, you have an accent, I said, oh, well, do you speak another language? Because I speak Bri, you know, and you only speak American. That's it. So like, I just make fun of them.
I love it.
You know?
Yeah, I was also very insecure about my accent. But I've heard that if you don't start living in a country of that language until you're 14, I think it was 14, it's impossible to lose accent.
Yeah.
So I moved abroad, I was 23. I was catching Maltese English accents. And even here now, I'm surrounded with a lot of Americans. And even though I think I sound American, when I hear myself on the recording after, I'm like, okay, this is far from American. But yeah, I mean, you just, you give in.
No, that's what makes us unique. And that's around the time that Sofia Vergara became famous. And the reason why she became famous was for her accent.
Yes.
Right? So I, at one point, kind of like gave up. It's like, this is me. You like me or you don't like me. But I definitely pushed me to become better at what I do. Right? I needed to make sure that I knew what I'm talking about. I needed to make sure that I know my responsibilities and I did it well. So people couldn't make fun of everything, but they will never make fun of my work. And that's how they respected me through all my professional life.
Okay, so I would like to ask you, knowing what you know now, and since you went through all these things you went through, would you have done something differently regarding, for example, your visa or overstaying or anything in general?
Well,
would you change anything in your path, or would you do it exactly the same
well,
way?
I believe that anybody's, whatever path that you have to go through, there was a reason why you had to jump and go through those steps and face the challenges you face, because you learn from them, right? And because of the challenges and the lessons that you get throughout your life makes you the person you are. But with the information I have now, I will never stay. I would go back and I would apply for my student visa if I wanted to really study here, or I would have finished school and then maybe do my master's here, right? I would have done so many things differently. I wouldn't go to school right away because I found out that I graduated with somebody and that person didn't have a social security number and I didn't know. So I probably could have gone to school earlier, right? And the only thing that would have changed when I got married and had my social security, I could apply for a job. That's all. But I could have gone to school.
But you just didn't know, so you would probably do more research, maybe find out more
there wouldn't be
about it.
So many things that I know now that, that I would have done differently.
So what would you advise to our listeners or viewers who are thinking about going to America or visiting or...
Well, I would like to tell them that to do their due diligence. Figure it out, what is it that you want to accomplish here, right? This is the land. I agree with everybody that says that this is the land of opportunity. I'm very grateful, right? Because I am where I am today because of this country, right? I'm grateful that I'm secure here. I'm grateful that there's a bunch of opportunities. I'm grateful that they protect children. There's many systems, right? Like, even during COVID, we were very privileged. Like, I don't think any other country gave the stipend to their citizens like America did for many people that lost their jobs. Just find out what you really want to do. And then once you get here, whether you're a student, whether you're in a work visa, where you're an investment visa, you can also, now I know that you can come and make your own company on an investment visa, buy real estate, or set up a cleaning service or catering service, whatever service you might be, wanting to jump on or you're specialized in. There's also a visa for that. So I would research all the type of visas there are to come the right way, right? I came as a visitor. Didn't know that I was gonna stay, but do it the right way. I will always advise people to do it the right way. Because even when I was here and my siblings were visiting me and they were working just to save up and go back home and pay for the tuition, I never want them to stay like I did, because I never wanted them to feel that they couldn't go back and see their family, right? Which for me, that's the most important thing, right? I will not change family for anything. Family is the most important thing for me.
100%.
So I would just make sure that they do the research and they found the right visa to come here and try it out, because sometimes it's not for everybody. I came to the most difficult city to adapt, which is New York, right?
Well, they say once you survive New York,
then you can survive everywhere. That's true. That's true. Like, it's a jungle over there. And I will find out about, like, okay, what city I want to go to. Like, no, me personally, after living in New York, and Miami now, there's no another city I will live in. You know, I have friends now that live in Lake Tahoe, Colorado, Minnesota, Ohio. I don't know how they do it. I cannot live in another city that's not New York or Miami because there's a lot of diversity. I like to try different foods. I like the different activities. I like the Latin community, the Latin flavor, the Latin music.
There's always something to do here.
Yes, there's always something to do. I'm close to the beach. I always wanted to be really close to the beach. So just make sure which city, because it can be hard for somebody if they're not used to it. But just try to make your transition as smooth as possible, having the right information, right? And there's a lot of resources out there. Now we have the internet where you can just Instagram, TikTok, you can find information right away. So there is many things that you can do, and there are many more, the podcasts as well, more opportunities, and just have an open mind, right? And
just do it the right way.
And then go back home and then visit the families because it's nice, right? And then not worry and stick with the people that lend you a hand, because those people are hard to find. I was lucky. I think I was lucky. And yesterday I was talking to my husband about somebody who made a difference in my time being here, which is my best friend Sam, and I miss him a lot. But he was like a brother to me. He knows my whole family because one by one they were coming, and he was the only one who was picking them up from the airport because I was also afraid. I wouldn't go to the airport. So make sure you stick to the people that are willing to give you a hand. There's a lot of people out there that are very helpful. Thankfully, I only have to come through people that helped me a lot in this country, and you stick with them and always make sure that you form your tribe, your community. That's what I actually, when I'm on sessions, I always tell people, when you come here, make sure that you form, a circle of friends. Whether you're a parent, make sure that you make a circle of friends of people that also have children, so that you feel you have that community, that little thing that connects you back home, right? Whether your friends are from different parts of the world, but find those similarities so that you still get to do your hobbies here, right? It's not about work all the time. You also have to take care of yourself.
That's right, absolutely. Okay, so to wrap this up, how can people find you?
Well, they can find me in Instagram under Sing Life Coaching, and they can schedule sessions with me. I can walk you through. I not only do the coaching to immigrants, but I do in different type of aspects, emotionally, physically, financially as well. Because the financial part, it's something, I'm a very resourceful person, and living on my own and supporting a family of 6 wasn't easy. So I help guide people to set up a monthly budget, what they should be saving, and how much should we be looking to gain a week or a month. How much should they be paying for rent if they're renting? How to save for buy the first home. I'm a real estate investor now as well, and then thankfully I saved ever since I came to this country, right? Like, I don't know if I told you, but I came to this country with 1 luggage, and I came with $1,000 in my pocket that I was supposed to give back to my dad to pay off the friend that gave him the $1,000, which I did within 1 month. When I sent those $1,000 back, I was left with not even a penny in my pocket. So everything that I've done throughout all these 22 years, it was knowing that I needed to support a family, I needed to save, and I also needed to take care of me.
You had a purpose.
Yeah, I had a purpose, and I just kept on going. I still had fun. I was young, I had fun. I have dear friends that I have them from back then.
So, thank you very much, Cynthia, for joining our podcast. I am so happy that you shared your story with us.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you good luck.
Oh, thank you so much. I was happy to share my story, and hopefully people can resonate with it and learn and get information. And if there's any questions or doubt, you can also know how to find me. It's in life coaching, and I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Thanks.